Okay. How are you?
I'm well. Have we been blessed enough for you to wear trousers today? Today's a good day. We can all rejoice.
That's it. That's
yeah,
it. That's it.
I'm good though. Thank you for asking. I think I'm just like most other people. And it's funny because I'm answering this question as if I haven't spoken to you like 2 a.m. in the morning crying because I miss you so much most nights. But
True. That's recorded too.
yeah, no, I think just like everyone else, just trying to kind of trying to make sense of this situation we're all in right now, this first for everyone, and trying to see through and see what happens, kind of playing it day by day. You how are you with 24/7 full-time kids?
That's a whole
apple cider and vinegar, by the way. So it's
really
a health kick as well now.
This is port.
I'm so jealous.
There you go. That's my health kick. It's good. I've got the new quarantine baby, so that's fun, as you know, of course. Nice. And yeah, these stay-at-home mothers and fathers, I commend them because it's a whole other level.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Few multiple people. So
crazy.
We will. Everyone's been hearing everything about COVID lately, so let's not badger on about something which has already been, I think, milked for more than possible, especially with the Prime Minister saying it could be months.
Yeah, I think, well, we won't get into that. We'll stick to what we know.
Yeah, so it's been some interesting circumstances, actually, and it's because I think we've both had calls completely on one side of the spectrum and completely on the other. And I think it's important that we just kind of have this meeting out there about the reality of what this market means right now for real estate, specifically when it comes to pricing.
COVID pricing. Oh yeah.
COVID pricing. And
they all want it. Well, all the buyers.
All the buyers want COVID pricing, but then all the sellers want COVID pricing as well. And it's funny because you have buyers on one side who we've had one recently with a listing that we currently have. And we've had one gentleman who's a previous client of ours who's asked us to list a property when this whole situation dies down. We're doing the responsible thing. And I mean, one of them was $700,000 under asking with the justification of it's COVID, the market's going to tank.
He had a 30% forecast was his sales pitch to us.
Yeah. And then we've also, and this, I mean, luckily this hasn't actually happened to me, but I think it's happened to you, but sellers thinking, well, everyone's quarantined right now and they have to self-isolate. And if we come into a lockdown, people are going to be stuck in their homes. So they're desperate to buy homes right now and want to get in. So they'll pay COVID pricing.
Yeah. So everyone's got an idea that obviously is advantageous to them and their situation as usual, which is fair enough. But the facts of the real estate market at this stage, at least, still stand where you're not going to miraculously pull advantageous buyer numbers out of the sky and they're going to work with no real world justification, we'll call it.
Yeah, this is a new situation for everyone, granted. So, I mean, I get that people are maybe like thinking these things and coming across, and we're just kind of chalking it up to maybe people are doing this because they just don't know, and it is something new, and they're maybe thinking that there's a deal out there, if you will. But the reality is pricing is frozen right now. It's not going up. It's not going down. It's frozen. Like it's not doing anything right now. And kind of like before this pandemic really started to hit full throttle in our first COVID podcast and video and blog, that was one of the things we said. There needs to be a long sustained period of time either way to have an effect on pricing, whether that's positive or negative.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is most of my buyers have stopped now. I've still got a couple that are out and about looking. It's a whole new process now with signing off that they have not left the country, signing off that they don't have symptoms, gloves, masks, uh, the cleaning ointment flying everywhere, disinfectant, wipes, don't touch anything, so on and so forth. I think it's good for, as long as everyone is taking the precautions, of course, it's good for sellers because it's really streamlining. I'll say it's good for sellers in a sense because it's really streamlining, I think, a lot of the general showing traffic that isn't going to amount to anything. Oh, let's go look at this place because it's there and we've got a couple hours on the weekend. So that stuff's all gone. But at the same time, like you're saying, the people that are still going out there, and the experience you had this morning or last night with that offer, is that there's some people that are saying, well, the traffic's dead, so I want my number. And there's just, for most people, I think any seller watching this or someone who's soon to be a seller watching this, until there's fundamentals in place that have actually changed, like the comp down the street or down the hallway or whatever sold for this new range because those guys decided to get out, creating a new comparable, shy of that, you're not going to get anywhere. And a lot of people are just not motivated at the moment, seller-wise, to offer anything like that. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I would agree as well. We're not at a forefront right now where, and I think part of it is mainstream media. And to be honest, I was kind of guilty of this a little bit during the first week that we were on quarantine. I think a lot of people go about their day, and if they're not binge watching Netflix throughout the day or making sourdough bread like everyone seems to be doing every day now, they've got the news on in the background, and the news is just worst case scenario, worst case scenario, worst case scenario, worst case scenario, worst case scenario. And so people are almost thinking in that mindset. So when buyers are coming through with these offers, I think in their mind they're thinking, this is a steal of the deal and this person needs me. And although that may happen in the future, to your point, we're not actually at that point yet because there are no numbers that support that.
100%. If you're going into this thing and it's like anything, if you're allowing all this negativity to plug your head all day, every day, like the news is doing, if that information is correct, if it's not, if it's inflated, if it's not, is irrelevant, it's not positive. And then, as we all know, if you get plugged with negative information, you turn negative. So if you go into these offers with this, oh my God, the world's coming down, I still need to do something, but the world's falling. The seller needs to know that. The seller, to my experience with both buyers and our own sellers, don't have that mindset when they get to the negotiation table. They may see the news or whatever they're listening to or wherever they're getting their information from, but at the end of the day, I have yet to hear, you haven't told me on the other side that we have yet, but as sellers say, you know what, guys, I think the world is coming to an end. I got to get out now.
Yeah. And in the grand scheme of things, although I think because everyone's been essentially stuck at home, if you've been self-quarantining, I think people forget that we're really only into our second or third week of this. It feels like it's been happening for months, but I feel the world has only really been serious about this for, 2, 3, maybe be generous and say 4 weeks. So the real estate market does not change in the same way that the stock market does. It's not instant. It's not hit the next day. It's not hit in an hour's time. It's not even hit a week later or 2 weeks later. Like, if you want to look at like the figures, even March in the release that we did for all of our subscribers to our newsletter, the start of March was so busy in the real estate market that even the tanking half of March still increased over last year's figures by almost 50%.
Yeah. And all those real estate board numbers are positive. They make the market look like it's still flying. But they were first week numbers that held out. They were so strong, held out for the duration of the month. Mm-hmm. Which is, I was really surprised. I didn't think I felt that we were obviously very busy the first couple of weeks of March, but I didn't think that it would have pushed that strongly. Like, it was pretty crazy. No, I'm not done. 5 more minutes. Thank you.
That, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen, Jay McInnes being
that's
told
it.
by his eldest.
That was the middle.
That was the
But
middle one.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the intro, by the way. You realize that, right?
It's a good one. Okay, yes. Okay, thank you. Let me lock the door. Keep talking.
Yeah, but I think, and just to switch the code a little bit, because we've been talking a lot about the buyers here, is sellers as well, is you also need to be back down to reality. It's, yes, it's all well and good looking at, the previous trend in the market, including March, has been going up and up, but you do also need to realize is there's not the demand that there was. Inventory has dropped substantially, yes, but the demand isn't there because of this right now. So if you're trying to strong arm someone into making something happen above where it should be, you're not in the strong arm position just because the figures say so. I mean, this is a first in the world. There's a lot of unknown. People don't know what's going to happen a month from now, let alone 12 months from now, especially when it comes to purchasing real estate, which is typically a longer term investment. That you run the risk if you try and push for something a bit more. It wouldn't surprise me at all if you still had a very good product that you got an offer on, you tried to push it, it fell apart, and you didn't get any activity on that over the next 4 weeks. Or if you did, very minimal activity. That's just the climate of the world right now. So just because you're seeing those increased figures and thinking, oh, COVID is a desperate situation, I can amp my price up, you're also just as guilty on the other end, because once again, nothing's happened. Prices are not rising. Prices are not dropping. Everything is frozen where it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, things have been consistent with listing and sales prices in the things that have actually moved. So I 100% agree, and I've been saying over the last couple of weeks, everything's kind of been on pause. It's not escalating or declining again. And with that being said, if you get something like usual, a lot of our listings have had no calls in like 2 to 3 weeks now. Mm-hmm. Outside of like the entry level under 600 stuff, nothing. So if you're one of those sellers and you get someone in, no, you may not have any. Now, in contrast, of course, what I'm saying to the opinion buyers should be having right now, no, you may not have any comparables out there on the market that have sold that say you're still worth where you were, or an increased or decreased, but you still have to understand that your market of people that are coming to your specific property is going to be very thin no matter where you are. And to take anything within remote reason, I'll say, not what we got yesterday, but within remote reason to what you're asking, take it seriously. But again, we've got people coming in that are like way below, that are just out of left field with their pricing and their arguments that, of course, isn't justified. But I mean, sellers don't think you have all the cards either, because there's a lot of question marks out there right now.
Yeah. Somebody purchasing your home is essentially making a long-term investment. And right now, I feel everyone is looking short-term.
Well, typically in Vancouver, people look very short-term. When I started way back in, 2007, when we would talk to first-time buyers, what's your timeline? What are you thinking? Oh, like 7 to 10 years. I haven't heard that in a decade. Everyone, 3 to 5 absolute max. It's just the way the market's been moving, and it's so quick, and you hear so much about real estate and, oh, I'm going to buy up, and my equity went up so quickly that the mentality now is very short term. Mm-hmm. So to your point, you need someone that's going to look like, I need something now. I'm going to weather this. So forget all the details short term. This is what works for me, and this is what I'm willing to pay. And if there's any reason to that in their evaluation, then you need to definitely take it seriously.
And that's it. And I think we've brought the point home, but I know there's multiple economists out there right now who are saying that specifically in Canada, real estate is going to be what leads the economy back up in the next 3 to 6 months, depending on what economist you read. So a lot of people who are out there thinking it's going to be doom and gloom and it's the end of the world, it's like we saw at the start of last year, it was dead, boom. And then it just started getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter to this point where it sunk down again. And maybe a little bit of the resetting mind that you need, in order to actually be successful again, because it's kind of like a second opportunity to go at this, like to rethink and potentially go at this in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, and I think there is a question mark when it comes to the next 6 to 12 months. And there's a lot of people working from home right now. The government's obviously just brought out one of their employer incentives to assist employers in paying people up 75%, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of people that are holding on. There's obviously a lot of people in a bad place as well, and a lot of people that this isn't going to affect too much. Of course, depending how long it goes on for. But I think there's a lot of question marks still with any buyer. What's the next 6 to 12 months going to look like? Back again, talking to sellers, could there be an economic reaction after all of this craziness, this unemployment, in 6 months, in 12 months? And what does that look like for me, my financing, for the pricing of everything? So there's a lot weighing on buyers, and I'm not justifying buyers coming in at ridiculous numbers, but I think sellers really need to think, you're not on the high horse you would have been this time a month ago, and really take into consideration anything that does come your way, because it could be a while till something else does.
That's it. And buyers, we're not at a point where sellers are desperate or the 99.9% of sellers are desperate within the last 3 to 4 weeks. Their situation has changed, that they need to offload these properties, not just anything at all. So right now, cooler heads will prevail. I think that pretty much wraps us up for this week.
Daddy, Mama's not giving me any more food because I'm still hungry.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, 1 minute. Don't talk to Mama. We'll leave it at that.
We'll touch base, and I know there's a few things changing over the next week in terms of real estate and what the banks are allowing for down payments and things like that. So in case any of you have read and heard about that, it's still very fresh and very new. So once we've digressed on that, we'll go through a lot of the changes, including the changes to showings at the moment if you have tenants, and going into new properties and evictions and things like that.
Yeah, for sure, because a lot is changing on the actual front lines, definitely.
That's it. Well, guys, we will see you next week. Stay safe, stay inside, stay self-isolated.
Bye-bye.